Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been so long since I've been able to do a crochet haul, but I'm finally going to be able to do one now because I have enough crochet projects that I have finished that I can show you guys. It's mostly sweaters, but a bunch of different patterns, so as always I will be putting the link in the description to all the patterns that I follow, but a lot of times I'm not really following sweater patterns. I'm really just following patterns for specific stitches and then turning them into sweaters. It kind of depends on the sweater, so I'll talk about that for each individual sweater that I show. But I'll always link the pattern or the stitch if there is one. If there's not, I'll mention it. I'll talk about the difficulty levels, whether I think it's beginner friendly or not. I'll talk about how much I price them for at craft fairs. I'll try to remember to talk about how much yarn I use and what yarn I used. So this is going to be things that I've crocheted from about November to now, which is today's February 1st. Starting with this shirt, actually, I made myself this shirt, which is something I've made before in the same yarn in a different color. This is like, I don't know what, I can't remember what the yarn's called. I think it's like Mandala or one of those type of brands. It's a weight 3 yarn. I don't work with weight 3 a lot just because I'm like a weight 4 girly. I like to use weight 4 for most projects, but weight 3 is really good for just t-shirts. It's very lightweight, of course, and creates a more flowy garment than weight 4 or bulky weight will. I actually just crocheted a new neckline onto it this morning because I've only worn this once, and then when I washed it the neckline really stretched out, but I still have the yarn left, so I don't mind just adding a neckline every time I wash it if I have to. So this is the new neckline, but besides that, I made this a couple months ago. I don't make myself things a lot, but I just really wanted some more short sleeve options in my wardrobe. So difficulty level, super beginner. If you want to like try out wearables, making a t-shirt is so beginner friendly. It's probably like one of the best things to have as your first wearable project. This is just 2 rectangles, and then the same way that I do sweaters, if you've ever seen my sweater tutorials, I will do 2 rectangles, and then at one point, like when it's long enough, I just add 2 short rows on both the rectangles on both sides to create like a shoulder pattern kind of, so that it becomes like a more rounded neckline instead of being like this kind of neckline. But I was anticipating having to add sleeves to this to make the sleeves longer, but I actually didn't have to. Like this, there's no sleeves added to this. This is just part of the rectangles, and it ended up being really nice. I don't know if that would happen for every size because I made this in about a 2X. So I think maybe that's why it was like wide enough to also be the sleeves, but it's worth a try. And adding the sleeves is easy. I actually did add sleeves, and then when I tried it on, I preferred it without the sleeves, so I took them off. I actually added like scallop sleeves. They were really cute, but I liked it better like this. I actually do think I might have a pattern for when I first learned how to make t-shirts, so I will put that in the description. I'm not sure if I followed it exactly to make this because I made this just freehand, but maybe my memory was like going off of that video, so I will link that in the description. I've never sold t-shirts at craft fairs, so I don't really have a price point for that, and I don't know what exactly I would do for a t-shirt. That's kind of tough because t-shirts are one of those type of things that people are not willing to pay a certain amount of money for, you know what I mean? So but it is still like a lot of yarn and a lot of work, so it's probably one of those things that I would never like really sell. I might do a custom order for it. Next, I want to talk about this guy before I forget. So I saw on Instagram someone that I've been following for a really long time. Her name is Joella. I think it's Joella Crafts or Joella. I'll link it. She posted a video about like certain things that make people come to her booths at craft fairs, and so one of them is to dress a stuffed animal yourself. She has different kinds of stuffed animals, but I just wanted to do teddy bears for now. So I will have these teddy bears hanging on a keychain rack, and then I will have their little clothes hanging on little doll hangers. So I made a couple different clothes. It was actually really hard to do like a sweater type. It's easier to do a dress. Like I made a dress here out of this yarn because it's weight 3 yarn, so I thought that would be easier to make small clothes. But the sleeves were hard because this bear, hang on, let me get a naked bear. Their arms are like sewn pretty close to, actually this one feels kind of different. Oh, his 2 arms are different on both sides. Anyway, more like this one. So it's like sewn kind of close. You have to be able to put the shirt on them, obviously, and you're gonna want kids to be able to put the shirt on them. So I'm trying my best to do sweaters, but I probably will end up making a lot of dresses because that is weirdly easier to do. I made this one a fuzzy dress, shirt. I really have been wanting to try this technique where you like brush out yarn, and obviously like everyone who's done that knows it's a very trust the process situation, and it was scary, and it seemed like all the stitches were coming out, but now that I look at it, it seems fine. I'm still kind of scared to do it on a real life thing though. So for craft fairs, I think I'm gonna go pretty cheap for these because things that I aim at kids always have to be cheaper because parents always, I feel like I talk about this all the time, parents will like drag their kids on with craft fairs but then don't let them buy anything, or they'll like give them like a $5 budget or hand them a $5 bill, and like not many things at craft fairs are $5. So I try to make things for kids that they can buy with that kind of budget, because otherwise I just kind of get annoyed at the parents. I just think like if you're gonna drag your kids to something like that, you have to let them shop around. I don't know. So I think I'm gonna get a bear and dress it for $5, but then add $2 if you want to pick another outfit for it. So like if you want one bear but you want multiple outfits to be able to change it into, so that would add $2, so it's $7. Most likely people probably won't choose that. I don't think they'll probably just get a bear and a outfit, and that'll be $5. I feel like that is, that's more than fair for them. I feel like it's pretty fair for me too though, because I'm only going to be using scrap yarn to make the outfits, and the bears, I think I got a 12 pack of bears for like $13 on Amazon. So let's just say like the bears are $1 each. I'm kind of just doing it for fun, for kids, and for people to like come towards our booth more, because we struggle with that a lot at craft fairs. Me and my sister do craft fairs together. I've talked about this before in the past a little, and I've shown craft fair vlogs, so if you've seen that, you know what I'm talking about. But we struggle with people like coming into our like setup, because we have like a U-shaped table set up, 3 tables, and then we have racks of our clothes at the end, and a lot of times people don't really come in to see what's on our tables. So I'm hoping that like a big sign with something that's a kids activity will really help that. Next is this sweater that I'm super proud of. Let me back up to get it on the frame. So it is a Jacob's Ladder diamond pattern. First of all, when I made this, I didn't do the design on the back, which I normally like usually always do the design on both sides, and I've even been complimented on that at craft fairs. I've seen people, they don't say it to me, but they say it to the people they're walking with. They're like, oh wow, the design is on the front and the back. Like I feel like people think that that's like the non-cheap thing to do, but I usually don't mind doing the design on the front and the back. Usually it's not even a question, but this was just such an annoying it wasn't that annoying, but there was math involved to do this, so I didn't do it on the back. But when I put this on to try it on, I literally was like, oh, I'm gonna have to make more of these. I'm gonna have to, because it looks so good. A lot of times when I like think of something in my head that I want to make, usually I can do it once and then I'm kind of like, I'm not over it, but it's just like, it's out of my system. And so a lot of designs that I've done, especially if they're really hard, I don't do them again, or I don't do them very often. So I thought that was what this was gonna be. I was like, I think I'm gonna be done with this after I finish it. But the second I put it on, I was like, this is so gorgeous. I'm gonna, sorry, I could feel that one of my hairs was on it. I got it. I'm gonna have to make it again. So I am gonna have to. I almost also wanted to keep this. I do that so often when I like don't plan on keeping things, and then the reverse happens where, luckily not with this, but when I like make something for myself, I'll like put it on and be like, I don't want this, and then I end up selling it. I don't know why this happens to me, but I do think I'm going to sell this. But if I make one for myself, I don't know what color I'll do. This color is really nice, and I feel like it's perfect because this screams winter to me. It's like so icy blue, and this like kind of like mock cable knit, because it's not a cable knit stitch. So I will link the tutorial that I followed for Jacob's Ladder stitch. But I applied that skill to this sweater, and I didn't follow any sort of sweater tutorial. So I just learned how to do Jacob's Ladder, and I applied it to this and made it like a diamond shape, which was kind of hard. Actually, I originally had one that I was gonna follow, and if you watch my 2025 goals video, I showed it in that video, but I couldn't follow it. It was too hard because apparently I think there's 2 ways to do Jacob's Ladder, and I liked it the way I saw it in the tutorial on TikTok. And then the other way is to, I don't even really know how to explain it. So, but I think the pattern I had saved was the other way, and so it just wasn't making sense to me. It wasn't adding up. I didn't know how to do the sizing. So I just made this up. I made a grid for myself to know when to do the Jacob's Ladder part, and then to make it like diamond shapes. I did kind of want to originally do it like they were going over each other, but that ended up being too hard at the end. I couldn't figure out like how to overlap them properly to have them all like work out in the end and like have a space to go into. It's kind of hard to explain if you don't know the Jacob's Ladder stitch. So this one I ended up with, but at the end I think it's so cute. I think it's gonna sell pretty fast. Ooh, I don't know what I'm gonna price this as. So I usually do sweaters and cardigans for $40, which I know is low, but I talked about this in like previous videos, so I won't get into it again because I feel like most people that watch my videos are my subscribers, and so you don't have to hear me say it again if you have already heard me say it. But I just like to have low prices because I'm really just doing it to make enough money to buy more yarn. It is a small business to me, but it's not my income. So I just find it fun to be able to sell things, just to have them out in the world and have people like my stuff and like it enough to pay a little bit of money to buy it. So anyway, $40 for like a regular sweater, but this was slightly harder. So I obviously raised the price. Hang on, I need water. Anyway, so I feel like I obviously like to price it up when the project is more difficult, but customers they don't understand when things are more difficult. So they don't really have that appreciation to want to pay the higher price. But I feel like I could do this at $45 at least. I think I'm gonna do this at $45. This is in a 2X, I think, by the way. I had to measure like all of my things that I've made because I was winging a lot of the sizes, so I don't really know. I had to measure them after or before I put price tags on them. So the difficulty level for Jacob's Ladder stitch, I'm gonna say pretty beginner actually. The Jacob's Ladder stitch was really easy for me to learn and understand, even though I clearly didn't understand the other way to do it. But I will link the way that I did understand to do it. The hard part about this sweater was the math and figuring out like how many foundation chains you need in order to get like the right amount of stitches to be able to have even diamond shapes, like, you know what I mean. I did make a grid, which is like such a super simple grid, but I'll put it on the screen. That's what I did. All the dark spaces are where I chained 10 to create the Jacob's Ladder loop thing that you create. You should, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should look at the tutorial. if you don't like understand what I'm trying to say. Then I used a bunch of the leftover yarn to create this. So that's the leftover blue. And then I had, these are both Pound of Love yarn brand. Everything I'm pretty sure is in weight 4 yarn after this shirt. I mainly use Big Twist, but these are both Pound of Love. They looked really nice together. I had a bunch of this purple, the color's Thistle. I don't know what the blue color is called. I had a bunch of it for just things I was making, and I still had a bunch of it left over, and I was worried about it because I was like, I can't possibly see another color that would like go well with it in a striping situation. But then I saw it next to the blue and it looked great, but I didn't think I had enough, so I also got gray, but the gray is not Pound of Love, that is Big Twist. So this is just a ripple stitch. This is in a size medium because I was worried I wouldn't have enough yarn. So ripple stitch is another situation where I learned how to make the stitch, so I will link the tutorial where I learned how to do this particular stitch where it's a ripple. I call it a wavy sweater. And then I just apply that to making a sweater, and I just basically make it in rectangles. Actually, the sleeves I don't even do the ripple, I just do stripes. Just make it in a rectangle shape and sew them together and make sweaters. So I will link the ripple stitch. I would say the stitch itself and making the sweater is beginner friendly. It's just again, just kind of counting, but not even that bad of counting because you're only counting in 4s. So if you lose track, then it's like not a big deal to backtrack. And it also, like, you can kind of see where you're supposed to be putting certain stitches in from the previous row, so it's not 100% necessary to count the whole time, but you like kind of have to like at least pay attention a little. So yeah, kind of similar, like the difficulty just goes up because of counting and not really because of the skill. So I would say, like, if a beginner wanted to try this but has already made like a plain sweater, because I always recommend, and I have a plain sweater, I'll show that next, your first sweater just being truly a plain sweater, rectangles sewn together, no special stitch. I mean, that's what worked for me to learn how to like grow and do more challenging sweaters. So if I always say, like, if a beginner has already done that, then they can do other sweaters where they apply other stitches to it, if that makes sense. So I would say this is beginner friendly. I think it's pretty easy to me. I will price this at $40 at craft fairs. So perfect timing for me to show the plain sweater that I made. It's not going to look plain because the yarn was self-striping. So, oh, I lied. This is a weight 5 yarn. So this is Puzzle Premier yarn. It was always one of my favorite yarns to use as a beginner. But that was kind of before I knew about yarn weights, and that, like, I didn't realize I was constantly using different yarn weights. So this is a bulky sweater. I've made, actually my first sweater that I ever made was this in the blue striping instead of the purple striping. And I will link the tutorial that I follow to make a basic sweater, which again is rectangle sewn together. However, this time, and most times, I usually will do rectangles and then, like I said, add a couple rows of like just so this is the rectangle. Ignore the sleeves. I feel like you can picture the rectangle, and then this part is like where I add shoulder parts. That for me creates like a better structure of a sweater, just a little bit. So if you're confident enough to do that, then I would recommend doing that. But either way, just doing rectangles, and even if you do rectangles and sew together, you can always build up a neckline as well. So there's not really like a problem with doing rectangles sewn together, and I feel like it's just like such an easy way for beginners to practice sweaters and understand how to make sweaters. Low-key, crocheting sweaters is easier than crocheting a lot of other things, and I feel like people don't realize that. At least like crocheting like basic, like just this is super cute, but it did not take me much effort at all. So like I said, this is Puzzle Premier yarn, weight 5. I will sell this for $40. I can't remember what size I made it in, Probably like an extra large. I had to measure everything. Beginner friendly for sure. Am I missing anything? I will link the tutorial. Next is a sweater that I made quite a while ago, probably around the same time I made this shirt, and then I just saved it for when I was going to be making one of these videos again. So this is another heart sweater. Y'all know I like to have one heart sweater on hand for craft fairs because I put this at the end of my rack and it draws people in. People are always impressed by it. I did these bright colors this time to be like kind of candy colors, although I constantly have trouble getting this color to look accurate on camera, but it looks pretty good right now. It is slightly greener in person. So I was going for like a mint kind of, you know, like a swirly kind of candy vibe. So heart sweaters I sell for more than regular sweaters, but I constantly change the price. I started them at $75, and that's when they were really hard for me, and they're not really hard for me anymore. I even finally wrote down the pattern so that I don't have to watch the tutorial anymore, because I constantly would have to put the tutorial on 2-speed or like fast forward it, because at this point I just need to know the pattern and I don't need to follow the visual of it. I do kind of get it now. This is my 14th heart sweater that I've ever made. So by now I've gotten better at it and it doesn't like drive me crazy to make them. So at one point I dropped the price to $65, and then I finally decided that at craft fairs I will do $55, because that's a price where people are still willing to like spontaneously spend money. Whereas like once you go over the 50s, I feel like people are like, that's an investment. So I've started doing 55, but then when people like ask me for a custom one, or they ask me, because sometimes I'll post it like on my Facebook page. Now I don't have like a crochet Facebook page, I just mean like my personal Facebook page, and then people will ask me how much do you sell these for, and that's when I say $65. If you're gonna ask for a custom one, then I'm gonna charge $65, because I already know that you're interested. You know, I don't know if that is fair, but I feel like it's fair, because craft fairs, you kind of want to just get people to think fast with their money, whereas like if it's online, if they're like messaging you clearly interested, then there's space to really charge what you want to charge, and I feel like that is fair, right? One time I did sell a heart sweater last year. It was like exactly a year ago, because it was around Valentine's Day, through Facebook, and it was annoying because the person like didn't give me money for it for such a long time, and I feel like that's always what's gonna happen when you sell like locally, because it was someone I knew, and so I was like and someone who lives near me, so it was kind of like a situation of like, I'll drop off the sweater, you send me money, then they kept not sending me money, whatever. It's actually not that good of tea. In the end I got the money, so it's fine, but I probably would just never sell to that person again unless they handed me the money right then and there. So there is a straight up tutorial for this complete sweater. It is not beginner friendly. I always say things are beginner friendly, and I do mean it. Like, I really truly think about it, because I was a slow beginner. So like I understand, like truly understand what it means to be a beginner and what like your skill levels are and are not. And so I will say that this is hard. This is a hard sweater to follow. It's the hardest part is getting it, so you make it into heart shape, but then you have to make it into rectangle shape to be a sweater. And so that's the hard part, and that's what I always used to struggle with. It probably would be easy if you just did like a heart shape and left it as a heart shape. So like on the bottom it would be like pointy, which is what I'm gonna do when I try to make a star sweater in this style. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So I think that's gonna be my next project actually. So it won't be in this video, but when I do that and I show it in my next crochet haul, I will definitely talk about like if that made it easier. And that's, I don't even have a tutorial for that yet. I feel like I'm just gonna like combine tutorials for that and gonna like half kind of freehand it. I don't know. We're not there yet. So heart sweater, $55. weight for yarn, which also when you use weight for yarn and you follow the tutorial, it's gonna end up being bigger than hers, because I don't know if she's using weight for yarn or maybe if it's just different because she's using cotton yarn. But that's always, it took me a long time to get the sizing correct for this kind of thing, because when you use weight for and you're following that tutorial, it's gonna end up being a 2x, and then when you want to make it smaller than a 2x, you have to take away rows from the pattern. So just so you know. Next, I just have some hats. I really love a half and half hat, or a two-tone hat as some call it. I call it both. I really wish that my beanies sold more at craft fairs, and I sell them for pretty cheap. Not surprisingly, since I sell everything for pretty cheap. This one time I was at a craft fair. It was like a Christmas market, and there was someone like kind of behind us and kind of like around a corner, so I couldn't really see them. But there was like probably like young adult people coming towards us, and they were like, oh, let's go to the beanie lady, let's all get cool beanies. And they were talking about the person behind me, and then I saw them leave again, and the beanies looked pretty much like mine, like the ones I sell, but I bet they paid like double the price for it. And I was like, if you just looked at my table, you would find beautiful beanies, very stretchy yarn, $12, come and get them. But they don't come and get them. I don't sell a lot of beanies. It's so sad. And don't even get me started on bucket hats. I don't even make bucket hats anymore because I have not been selling bucket hats. So sad, because I really love bucket hats. So beanies are super beginner friendly, even though they don't seem like it. At least this type, because this is just a rectangle, and then you sew the side up together, and then you drawstring it so that you scrunch it. And then that's how it becomes the beanie. So it's literally, all your crocheting is a rectangle. I'm not even joking. If you want to do a half and half beanie, I use a weight, a 5.25 crochet hook, weight for yarn, and then that will make it 30, it's usually like 34 rows. So then if you want to make half and half, you divide that in half, so that's 17. So you make 17 rows of each color. I hope that's helpful, because sometimes when you want to make things half and half and then you just like don't know when to stop the first color, like that's tough. So I do hope that that's helpful. And that's in half double crochet, because I don't do single crochet most of the time. I see a lot of people that try to do no what is it called, no scrunch, I think. No scrunch beanies, but I like the scrunch on the top. So anyway, I also learned how to make a what was it called? It's called a short row. I'm actually not, I don't know if I even, oh, I do remember the tutorial I followed, so I'll link the tutorial. But actually it's supposed to be in single crochet, and I made it in half double crochet because I truly hate single crochet that much. I don't really hate it that much, but it just sucks for something like a beanie, because it takes something that should take 2 hours and turns it into like 5 hours, right? Does anyone else have that experience, or is that just me? So this makes like a swirly on top. It's called a short row because you make short rows. I'll just link it. I'm not even gonna bother explaining that. I will just link the tutorial that I followed. I found out about it from a Facebook group that I'm in, like a crochet Facebook group. Doing half double crochet does make it have like bigger gaps, I think, though, than if you did single crochet. But like when you're wearing it, you don't see that. And I made this bow bead beanie. I really want to start doing beads like this a lot more. I saw these beads, I think they were on clearance at Joann, so I just grabbed them and I was like, this is going to be such a cute hat. But they make all kinds of beads, and I should really start making all kinds of bead hats. Well, maybe I shouldn't actually, because people don't buy my hats, but I still really enjoyed making it. Something like this, I don't know if I'm going to do this anymore, but I would normally sell it for slightly more than my regular beanies at craft fairs. So I would sell this for $15, whereas this one would be $12, because it has like extra things in it. Obviously the beads cost extra money, and it has extra effort put into it. But at this point, I don't know what I'm doing with my hat prices, both beanie and bucket hat. I almost want to make just absolutely every single hat the same price, just so I can just have one single sign I mean, I'll have price tags on them too, but just one sign that just says hats, certain price. I don't know what that price would be. It's such a struggle because I just want people to buy the hats, and I really don't even care if they're buying it for like $10, but just buy the hat, because usually I'm making hats out of leftover yarn, so it truly does not matter that much to me, but I just really like making them. And people neglect them at the craft fairs. Difficulty level for this, actually I have a tutorial on my channel that shows how to make a beanie with beads. It's actually a tutorial for a Christmas tree beanie, but like you can follow it to make something like this, and then obviously just don't put a star at the top because it's not a Christmas tree. But it's the same exact thing. So you just add the beads before you start crocheting, and then I show in my tutorial, so I'll link my tutorial, I show how to put the hook around the bead so that all the beads are like facing the same way. Once you see how it's done, it's very easy. So even something like this I would say is beginner friendly, and I did start making bead beanies as a beginner. Are you tired of listening to me talk yet? I have one more sweater to show you, and then you don't have to listen to me talk anymore. So this is a sweater that I made out of blue scraps that I'd been collecting. I love a scrap yarn sweater so much. Scrap yarn sweaters are starting to become my favorite thing to make in the world. I talked about before, I've shown it probably in a previous crochet haul, that my first scrap yarn sweater that I ever made was my favorite sweater, and to this day is my favorite sweater that I've ever made, even though like compared to my other sweaters it's not that different. Like it doesn't stand out, but to me it does. I don't know why, I just really love the way it came out. So I started to notice that I was building up some blue scraps, so I saved them to make a blue scrap sweater. Although I used that same blue from the diamond sweater in this sweater, but compared to the other blues it kind of looked gray. But I feel like in total you can tell that this is a blue sweater, like, you know what I mean, because when I was crocheting it I did kind of struggle with that. It was a trust of the process situation once again, because I just couldn't see the blue as a whole, and I was like, I don't know if people are gonna get the gist that this is a blue scrap sweater. Although obviously there's some, like I have white, and this is another problem child. This was navy and it looked black. Let me see if there's, and then there's black up here. They're next to each other. So up here, I'm trying to make it focus on the sweater, that's black, and then turn it over and that's navy. Next to each other you can kind of tell, but like I was worried that it just seems like I was incorporating a lot of black when it's really the navy color. But in general, I like the way it came out. I think it's cute. I love scrap sweaters. I think scrap sweaters are always going to look nice. It is a hassle because you have to kind of make your own version of variegated yarn, and basically that just means you're cutting off yarn constantly and attaching new ones. Like you're just changing colors in the middle of rows to make it look good, and that's annoying. But it's worth it. It looks so cute. I'm gonna start collecting my scraps like this. I think I'm gonna try. I know right now I do have quite a few purple scraps, so that happens to me all the time, especially with purples and greens. I did have a lot of greens for a while, to the point where I almost was gonna make a green scrap sweater, but I don't know what happened to it. I must have used it for something else. But I still do have a lot of purples left. I don't think it's enough to make a purple scrap sweater right now, but I could just put them to the side and wait until I have more purples. But then that causes a problem of me purposely going out of my way to like buy certain colors for other projects just so I'll have scrap yarn. I know that's gonna happen because that is what happened. I like buried it in the pile, so I'm gonna try to reach for the blue. There we go. The Jacob's Ladder sweater. I picked this color on purpose so that I would have another blue to add to the blue scrap sweater, and it ended up being a good choice. Of course I would never make a jeopardizing choice, but I know I'm gonna do that constantly. If I start to plan a certain colored scrap sweater, I'm gonna be like, well, I guess I'll just like buy purple yarn for my next couple projects so that I can build up purple, and then that's like not the point of a scrap sweater. So I have to be careful of not doing that and maybe just wait and see if I have enough yarns per color to do that type of thing. I am also currently working on a regular scrap sweater, and so now that I finished this blue, I can add all the leftover blues to the regular scrap sweater. Wow, that is hard to say. Scrap sweater, I did run out of a bunch of the colors. I ran out of the teal, which is the same teal from the heart sweater, so that's why I was also worried that this was going to come across as green instead of blue. I ran out of the light blue, which I had for a long time, so that's fine. I think that's everything that I wanted to show in this video. There was a couple other things that I made earlier in the winter that at that point I was still doing craft fairs, so they ended up just selling. I never got a chance to show them, but that's okay. I don't have a craft fair right now until the end of March, and then after that there's nothing planned for a while. So I'm sure that that's going to give me a lot of time to build up more projects, to do another crochet haul, to be able to show you guys everything that I made. In terms of other videos on my channel, I mentioned this in my last video, but I don't really know what I'm doing next. I don't know what kind of video I'm going to do next. I've been doing a lot of craft videos and like crochet with me and paint with me kind of videos, but I do want to change it up a little bit. I want to do some sort of vlog, because I like my channel to be like all kinds of things, like not to the point where it's like I don't have a niche. Well, I don't have a niche. I try not to. It's clearly crochet, but I try to do other things because I want my channel to just be about all kinds of things and not just crochet. And I like to be like a vlogging channel, like kind of like a channel that you would have playing in the background, like kind of cozy vibes. That's always what I'm going for. I take a lot of inspiration from Meredith Stepien, and kind of like Zoe and Alfie's sister Poppy. I talked about that in the last video, that I really like when she paints in her videos, and that's why I started doing it. So I don't have a plan for what's next. If anyone has any ideas of something you'd like to see me do, then absolutely let me know. I would love to take ideas, but I'll probably just wait until something comes up. I'm sure there's going to be something at some point where I'm going to want to vlog it. So when that does happen, I will be here. Also, I will try to do maybe more tutorials, but I don't know what to do them for right now. Obviously, I could do something like the Jacob's Ladder diamond sweater that I made, because there's no tutorial for that. But I feel like I have to make maybe at least one more of that sweater before I can be confident enough to make a tutorial for it. And then there are still new sweaters that I'm wanting to learn this year, such as the star sweater that I've been talking about. And so if I make that and feel like I can make a tutorial for it, then I will. It all just kind of depends. I never want to like make a tutorial when someone already has a tutorial for the same exact thing and their tutorial is like clear enough to follow. I always just do it if like there is no other tutorial available for me to be like, hey, watch this tutorial, that's what I followed. Like when I freehand something just because there was no tutorial, then that's when I'll make a tutorial for other people to be able to do it, if that makes sense. Especially because I feel very confident describing things in beginner terms and like being very beginner friendly and like just explaining things like slowly and very detailed. So it's up in the air if I'm gonna be like making tutorials. It's gonna depend on like how things turn out, like the star sweater, and like if I do another Jacob's Ladder sweater, like how well I understand it myself to therefore be able to like explain it for others. Obviously I want to be able to understand it so well that I'm easily explaining it. So we'll see what I come up with for that. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I really super appreciate all the views that I've been getting lately, and all the watch hours, because I know that a lot of my subscribers know that I'm in need of more watch hours for my channel. I have the subscriber count to be a YouTube partner, but I don't have the watch hours. I'm not even very close to having the right amount of watch hours. So when everyone has been telling me that they've been binge watching my videos, that is so helpful to me, just to have it on in the background, and having my tutorials going, or like any of my videos, watching in a playlist. Like, that is just so helpful for my channel, and I really appreciate everyone that's been doing that. And I'm gonna be trying so hard to make more fun content for everyone, crochet and not crochet. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see everyone super soon.